Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador, we've already established at this hearing that the Taliban continues its cooperation with al-Qaeda. Have they instructed their followers explicitly to discontinue that cooperation? Yes or no?
I need a different setting to comment on that.
Okay, well, the cooperation we've established continues. Is it even a requirement of our agreement with the Taliban explicitly that they stop their cooperation with al-Qaeda?
It's a condition of the agreement, and that will affect what we do, that they do not host, they do not train, and they do not allow fundraising for terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda.
And the agreement does not, but excuse me, the agreement does not say Al-Qaeda. It simply says terrorist groups. It doesn't.
No, it does say Al-Qaeda.
It says Al-Qaeda with respect,
such as Al-Qaeda,
with respect to allowing attacks from Afghan soil to the United States. But it explicitly does not say Al-Qaeda when it comes to cooperation with terrorist groups. Presumably Al-Qaeda resisted that.
The categories I just enumerated applies to Al-Qaeda as well.
That's not in the agreement. And if you can show me another part of the agreement that explicitly says that, I would appreciate it. Would it violate the agreement if the Taliban conducted any of those activities with al-Qaeda from Pakistani soil? Yes or no?
We would regard that as a violation, but the agreement is about Afghanistan.
Correct. So the agreement does not preclude them from cooperating with al-Qaeda to attack Americans from Pakistan. And the Taliban operates on both sides.
You would regard that as a violation if they did.
Interesting. Well, I wish it were in the agreement itself. Would it be violating our agreement with the Taliban if the Taliban stoned 100 women to death in a soccer stadium? Yes or no?
Well, our agreement has 4 parts. I don't know where we're in a court, so I have to explain this a little complicated.
Well, I've read it, and I haven't seen anything that would preclude that. So is that, am I right or wrong?
I'm just saying the issues of what happens, the future of Afghanistan and relations between Taliban and other groups, and now a future government deals with its population, what they do will affect what we do in terms of our assistance program.
Correct. So it's not a condition in the agreement. Nor would it violate the agreement if the Taliban were, for example, assassinating Afghan government officials or attacking or trying to assassinate members of Afghan civil society, as the Afghan government believes they're doing now. Is that correct?
As I said, our objective in this agreement is to bring Afghans together to negotiate a future in which they can live in peace with each other. And depending on whether they do or not and what policies that government pursues, we will respond to that based on what we do or don't do.
I'm talking about the conditions for withdrawal, because you say in your testimony that our withdrawal is conditions-based.
Its condition is terrorism, as I said.
let me just be very clear. Are there any conditions tied to the withdrawal other than they not shoot at our troops as we leave and not allow attacks on the United States from Afghan soil? Mr. Helby, are there any other conditions tied to the withdrawal in the agreement? Yes or no?
The agreement, as the ambassador was saying, does specify, not only do they have commitments for counterterrorism and our expectations for which they're not fully compliant, there is, moving forward in inter-Afghan negotiations or the Afghan peace negotiations, which they have, there are specific provisions not attacking our forces. But we do have expectations of a reduction in violence, and the violence that we are seeing today is too high.
Understood. I'm glad that that is our expectation, but again, the Taliban have made no commitments in that regard. And look, we haven't just promised to withdraw fully. We've also pressured the Afghan government to release Taliban prisoners, terrorists, which they have done. We have promised to lift sanctions against Taliban leaders. If we're going to leave, and many Americans want us to leave, why give them these gifts on the way out?
Well, because we just don't want to leave, because we could have left. We didn't need anybody's permission to leave. It is because we want a peace agreement to end the war in Afghanistan, which is what the Afghan people want.
And that's not a
it was
condition of
these
our
difficult, well, we have 4 elements in the agreement, as I said, and that's a package which has inter-Afghan negotiations and a permanent ceasefire. And without those difficult decisions, and I know we're not happy about those release of prisoners, but those difficult decisions were necessary to get to where we are, where peace negotiations can start. And we will decide based on what happens in the peace negotiations and what they do on the terrorism front.
Well, let me just say in conclusion, I hear you saying things like the Taliban have learned their lesson and the Taliban want good relations with the outside world. And sir, I have to say, it strikes me as incredibly naive. This is a totalitarian movement that seeks power in Afghanistan, not peace, but power. And to base our hopes on, to base our policy on the hope that somehow it has changed its nature, while providing all of these concessions up front, and the only thing that they promised to do is to stop shooting at us as we leave. I think, look, we're all for peace, and I understand people want to leave, but I think what you're selling us is not peace. It is a fairy tale to make us feel better about leaving Afghanistan. And with that, I yield.